Hi, I'm Lise Colucci, one of the life coaches at Queen Being, and I'm here to offer you support as you discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse and toxic relationships, and to focus on your healing. And hello, today we are talking about grief after a narcissistic relationship. Or at least we're starting with that. You guys can talk about anything you need to talk about as well. I'm just going to open a little bit with what I'm going to say here about grief. And I see that Jonathan's already started in, so I'm just going to talk a minute and then I'll go back and read what you said here, Jonathan. Most people find that it's important to acknowledge and experience the grief that they feel after a toxic relationship. And I think a lot of people are a lot shocked to find how much grief they actually have. Because, once you know everything there is to know, or as much as you can about toxic people and narcissists and the way they treat us, it seems like you should just be angry and, heal from there. But there's a lot of layers of grief that happen because it's not only letting the person go and letting go of the relationship itself. Then you have a secondary grief for the relationship that never actually existed, the one that you believed was real, but wasn't actually there. You know what I'm talking about if you've been there. So let's talk a little bit about that and see if we can help people who are going through that. And I'll say hello here. I see Jonathan, Deborah, and Jen. Hello, Butterfly Mama. I'm going to go back and read what you said here, Jonathan, because I think you said something important. You said, you're on point today, Lise, but it's in a different way for me. My uncle died Monday morning, and the widow, that is my aunt, is straight up narcissistic. Oh, I'm sorry for your loss of your uncle and that you are now dealing with the grieving narc aunt. His kids, not one of them, has really made an effort to reach out to me in over 30 years. And now my father is expecting me to go on Saturday and put on pleasantries for them. What are you feeling about that? Are you going to do it? And if so, what kind of support can we offer you as you go through that, Jonathan? The cousins are basically the reason why I left Facebook and I will never go back ever. Oh, yeah. What are you going to do? Butterfly Mom is saying, sorry to hear that, Jonathan. And Jonathan says, I'm trying to figure out how to give Dad the support he wants, but he's pulling an enabler flying monkey trick, trying to be the peacemaker. Yeah, people do that, especially when they are in shock and a little bit, shaken up emotionally, and then they'll just let bygones be bygones, so to speak, and that doesn't actually work. Emily, hello. The relationship that didn't exist was the saddest part. Isn't it true? And it's like a grief of a person that isn't real, but at the same time, it's like a death because they actually didn't exist. The person that, the relationship that didn't exist is a person that didn't exist. And it's awful and confusing, but it's real and we have to, acknowledge it and grieve it. Hello, Butterfly Mama. Hello, Diane. Jen, why does it spell check your name? I don't know whose name. I don't know. It spells checks everything. Who knows? The current plan is Julie will come with me to the viewing on Friday. I don't know about the memorial service Saturday. Okay. Well, let us know how we can be of support to you through that, because that does not sound pleasant in any way, shape, or form. So grief in itself after a narc relationship, like I said, it's more than twofold, but it's minimally two things, right? It's the grief of what we experienced, and also in the loss of a relationship, but then the loss of the belief of what we thought was real that wasn't actually real to begin with, and that is confusing and a whole lot of stuff for people. So if you feel like you're in a grieving pattern and then it gets better and then suddenly you're in a second grieving pattern, it could be why. And we have to acknowledge and experience grief and sadness, because if you don't, what happens is we dissociate from it a lot. And when we dissociate from it and we dissociate from the pain, then we don't experience the emotions we need to feel in order to heal them. So it's kind of important to understand the grief, allow it and accept it. But then what can happen is we can get stuck there. Like it can become a grief pattern. And when you have a grief pattern going on, you notice that you are there for like a prolonged period of time, like years and years, still stuck in the grief of grieving this relationship. And, at that point, you got to take some action to get yourself through it. Sometimes it can be a matter of really allowing yourself to feel parts that you didn't feel. And sometimes that can happen by getting back out into life so that you have an opportunity to have the triggers that you need to have to experience the feelings you need to feel and then move forward. It's a whole complicated thing sometimes. What did you saying here? Talking about spell check, Jonathan. Jonathan says, I'll pull on point and say I learned with help from other communities that accepting and processing the grief is healthy. Yes, it is healthy. And another thing with grief patterns, I'm talking about like having a lot of grief for many years or over a year, of grieving these relationships, is it can hold you in place because it can like anchor you back to the trauma itself. And then when you're doing that, you're basically holding on to the narc, right? Because we're holding on to or we can create more patterns of the same sort so that we are always feeling the thing that we're grieving. And that's not a healthy cycle. Grieving it and feeling it and then moving through it is, let's see here. What do we have here? I'm very angry, says Jonathan, because I used to be close to these cousins, but they're all just suddenly pulled away, not to mention they moved far away to get away from their narc mom. Yeah, and I don't know what you can do. I mean, you said that they're toxic, right? And they're the reason you're not on Facebook. So there's more to the story. Jen says, that was hard for me. Acceptance at first, and then I denied. But now I'm good with those 5 stages, I think, right? I mean, and that's part of it. We do go through the stages of grief, right? And I guess my point is, like, the way I work is then, how can you how can you move through it? Sorry, I'm a little spacey. How can I have a headache? How can you move through the grief back into living your life, right? At a certain point. I mean, you do have to feel it and you have to go through what you have to go through, but you can't stay there forever. Hello, Shastina. Oh, you can stay there forever, but that's not thriving, is it, my friends? So, I mean, having patience with yourself is a big deal. A lot of self-care, a lot of self-awareness so that you're aware that you're actually stuck. I think what happens a lot of times is we get into dissociative patterns of shutting down, like a shutdown. And when we have that shutdown and we're not fully engaging in our lives, we're not looking for things to be joyful about or looking for passions or anything to like, sink our teeth into or get excited about. We're kind of stuck in the grieving pattern, right? So, as you discover the places where you're stuck, then you got to push past your comfort zone. And when you do that, that's when it gets interesting. So anyway, that's what I got about the grief. You guys talk to me about what you want to talk about today too. I am, let's see, I'm going to read here. What's happening? What's happening, you guys? Tell me what's up. I'm hearing from Jonathan. Jonathan's saying he's, let's see. All except the baby boy, who now is an FBI agent. I suspect Aunt will start looking at him as supply. Probably. She probably sees them all as supply, right? Yeah. Okay, what do you guys have going on today? Anyone have a topic they want to talk about or anything on their mind that they need some help with or anything else? I'm in a mellow mood today, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. My scroller. Okay. Did I say hi, Shastina? Hello? I don't think I did. Anyway, talk to me some more. I'm going to keep it brief otherwise today. So what you got? Jonathan says, yes, Lise, but he came back to live in the same town while the rest of the cousins spread out. Okay. And Jen agrees with you. Nobody feels the same or learns to accept the same. Right. Everybody's different. That's right. So what else do you guys have? What's going on in your worlds? Let me know. Who's in here? We got a few people. Who else is here? Sorry, I'm not in a chatty mood, I guess. Okay, let's get going. Talk to me, people. Give me something. I'll just sit here and keep saying, talk to me. You were talking about the Kubler-Ross and her 5 stages model, Lise, just so you know. That's what I assumed. I'm just falling behind here. You always fall back into grief. Shastina says she always falls back into grief. And I guess that's because I'm not getting too far forward. it's difficult because it's all wrapped up together, right? Isn't it? With all the other stuff that we have to recover from and then getting knocked back down if you still have narcs around. It's very difficult. So, um, I mean, again, a lot of it comes down to self-care and focusing on the positives around you so that you can see that there's something besides the grief, right? You have a headache too. I know it's kind of this weird, like, it's hurting, but where was I? Something about the self care, right? Okay, so kind of off my game here today, guys. Give me some questions. That'll help. Just anything. Ask me what color the sky is. Help! Help! Jonathan says what seemed to help was writing out what I was grieving for and talking about it and deciding some action steps. And Jen said I figured out my root link to my problem was narcs, buried way back in my memory, fear of abandonment. Okay, I love this. This I love. Okay, and this I had something written down and I didn't even read it because I couldn't have a link. I didn't have a link to it, but it was exactly that. It's the pattern of how it goes back to childhood so often, and we don't grieve the stuff that we need to grieve from what we experienced as children because we don't even know what it is often that we need to grieve. And it's as you're working through, like you're saying, as you're healing, things come up and you also see that there's a pattern with having narcs and the fear of abandonment and all of that. And you're asking, how can I fix that so I don't hold on to bad people? Oh my gosh, you know what? You have to embrace change. You have to be so willing to embrace change that it is more exciting. Of the unknown and the newness of the change can be more exciting than the horrible reality of dealing with narcissistic people. It's really hard and it's also really exciting. So it's a lot of it is a mindset shift, I think, of realizing that you can create change. You really can create change, and you're seeing it right here. Letting go of bad, toxic people will create change so that you're not stuck in some link or some link to your childhood issues, right? And the abandonment and the memory of the fear or whatever you're saying, the fear of abandonment. And until you can be willing to embrace the change, then, you just keep cycling, right? So Jen says, mom dumped me at a park and drove off at 6 months old. Oh, sweetie. Right? Okay, yeah. But you know what? You aren't that 6-month-old right now in a park in a little however she left you. You aren't that baby. You can talk to her and tell her she's always been wanted. You can do all kinds of inner child work with just that one experience. The reality of that is it's cruel and horrible for anyone to experience that, right? So not being stuck there is not believing that you are that baby, right? To me, anyway, that you are a fully functioning adult person who does not need to, keep repeating this abandonment cycle over and over and over in her life. You really aren't. You can find things in your life that give you stability. I'm going off the cuff here because my own stuff, but trying to think of what do I do here in this situation. Different story, but got the abandonment stuff big time. So you can finding things that bring you stability that are within your control. Does that make sense? And accepting that the stability that you do create is safe and realizing that it is okay to be safe. And also it's okay to not be, to not need something to anchor to. It's okay to just be like free in the world and not knowing what the next step is. You're still safe because it's not attaching to someone toxic that's going to save you, right? We know this in our heads. It's attaching to yourself. And it's attaching to healthy things in the world around you based on your love for yourself, right? So it comes back to self-love and self-care, I think, really a lot here. And are you holding on to someone toxic right now? And I can't remember everyone's story when they come in here. I forget who's got which story. So are you still holding on to a toxic person right now? Shastina says, I think my slow healing is because of my memory. There are times I have major moments, and a few months later, I find myself having the same hot moments it's like I can't keep the information together in my mind. It totally makes sense. part of PTSD, in fact, and it's do you journal? Because if you journal every day, even if you repeat the same thing in a journal, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It's at least getting it out of your head where we're trying to store all this information and putting it somewhere concrete so that you can refer back to it, or at least just get it out of you. Do you do that at all? If you don't, I advise it highly for the memory stuff. Even bullet journaling. I like, oh, that's a good idea. If you journal, make an index in the front of your journal with just like save out a few pages and then number your pages. And then you can put the topic. You know, today I talked about abandonment. The next day I talked about sadness. The next day I talked about, what I did today. And then if you forget, you can look and say, oh, look, I talked about abandonment 15 times this month. You know what I'm saying? You can go back and track it. So it's one way to help you track your own thoughts. Hopefully that will work. And maybe you are already doing that. Yes, you're right, Chestina. We can only save ourselves. Jonathan's asking if your mom eventually came back, and Jen says, I don't have any memory. She did get us back, but I could tell what no memory before the age 10. Oh, you don't have any memory before the age of 10. Okay. Assuming that the trauma is there, you just talk to that baby. It's all, what can you do at this point, right? Except refer back to the parts of yourself that need care and give it to them. My dogs are so going to bark because the kids are running in and out of the house. And if they do, I guess they do. If you do journal, don't forget the date. Correct. Put the date and put a page number, and then you go to the front of your book and it's write a one-word description and put the page number so that you can refer to it if you're having forgetfulness issues. And then it kind of helps you not feel so like scattered, when you have it all. It's one thing I learned from bullet journaling that I don't think I will ever not do in a journal. I love it. So Jen says, I don't remember. My aunt messed up and let it slip. Okay. Yeah. And what are you doing I think I asked you, Jen, do you still have narcs in your life? And what are you doing to work through that we're talking about here, these abandonment stuff? Because I can give you more suggestions if I know what you're already doing. You know what I mean? Anything else here? Let's see. I think I missed some stuff up here. No, I did not. If I missed something, someone said, please just retype it. Because like I said, head's slow today. Yeah. Anyway, that's a big thing to grieve. That's a pre-verbal grief, right, Jen? That's something that's goes back before you spoke. So when things are pre-verbal, my understanding is to use the body and to feel what it feels like in your body without assigning a word to it, and just hold yourself in that space. In other words, breathe around the pain and breathe around, meditate, whatever, sit quiet and just breathe around the areas that feel the grief. And then you can tell yourself loving thoughts that you might tell a small child, right? That's you're all alone, you left them all. I meditate, take pictures, and job search. That's good. So take that meditation into that, perhaps. I don't know. It's worth a try. Because the pre-verbal stuff doesn't actually have an emotional word for it. Baby just feels what baby feels, right? It's not assigning a meaning or a name to the emotion that it's feeling. So, and usually the best way to access that, like I said, from my understanding, is through the emotions and how we experience them in the body. So worth a try, Yeah. Anything else, you guys? Tell me what else is up, or any other questions that you might have. I would be happy to answer. Otherwise, I'm going to keep this really short tonight, and I will be back Tuesday, if not before. I will aim for this weekend once, but I can never promise the third day. I'm working on it. I'll try for one this weekend too, to just give a little hello on the weekend. Those days can get hard for people. So anything else? Everybody's quiet today. Talk away, you guys. Give me some info. I think it helped with my confusion feelings. I love it, Lise. Thank you. Oh, good. Which helped? What helped with your confusion? The journaling with the page, with the date and the page numbers or whatever. Jonathan says, interesting. So you took some distance. I didn't, but besides my cousins, 2 of my sisters did that. Okay. What else, you guys? Anything today? Okay. So, yeah, that's all I got today. I'm sorry. As in they moved in. Okay, my darn phone locked up and I'm restarted on me. I'm getting back. Sorry, guys. It's okay. And do you have anything else you want to talk about today, Shastina? I'm going to cut it short otherwise and be out of here in the next few minutes. And I will be back, like I said, maybe on the weekend. Anyone interested in the group coaching? It is the we're in kind of the middle of most of them, but self-care just started this week, so it would only be 1 week miss. Just let me know and I can hook you up with that. Jonathan says, Lise, I guess for some of us, dealing with grief is making the narcissistic relationship like a death, making no contact. It is like that. And like I was saying, because you're grieving something that isn't real, that can feel like a death too, because you're assigning a new belief to the person you thought they were, right? And so then it feels like you're grieving the death of the person you thought they were once you realize who they really are. And it's kind of a big deal. So Shastina says, I stopped journaling because sometimes they ended up in the wrong hands, and I've had a pile because I've been doing this for years, but I really should get back to it. Yeah, I mean, it's worth a try. I'm thinking more for the memory stuff that you were talking about. You don't even have to like journal lots of information, just for the memory stuff that you were talking about, feeling like you forget what it was that you've been working on, and then a month later realizing you are repeating yourself. So ideas to put this phone to death. Just kidding. Okay. Okay, you guys. Shastina, I had the same. You can do it online sometimes. Yes, you can. You can journal online. And I think that's it. Okay, you guys, I'm going to take off. I love you. You take care, and I will be back next week. Please leave any ideas for what you would like me to open with, what you're working on, what you're talking about. I will take suggestions and think about it during the day, and then come back with something for you when we meet again. So any ideas that you would like me to go into, or that you guys want to, bring up as a main topic to start with, go ahead and hit me up either in the comments below or in the chat section. And as long as it's running, I do read through, or just, you can find me coachlisec@gmail.com, and you can message me there and I will gladly talk about what you guys need to talk about. So anytime. Okay. And I'm going to head out. You guys take care, and I will see you later. Goodbye.